Okay, so welcome back. And in this lesson, we are going to create and add a play button. So currently, our program starts running as soon as we run the program, and we're going to kind of modify that a bit so that it starts when we press the play button. So to do that, we're going to go in here to our game stats, and we have the self.gameActive flag set to true. So we're going to change this to inactive state, and we're going to switch this to false. And that way it starts inactive. And we're going to create a button now that when we click the button, it is going to turn this flag back to true, and then everything else is going to work pretty much the same. So in order to do this, we are going to create a new class called button. So we're going to come over here and open this up, and we'll click here for a new file, and we're going to call this button.py. And the button is going to rely a lot on Pygame, so we're going to go ahead and import Pygame.font. And then we'll create our class button. And then we'll do our definition, our initialization, Can't type this morning. AI game. And we're going to give it also a message. All right, so when we initialize the button, we're going to pass it the self argument, we're going to pass it the AI game, and we're going to pass it a message. And what we're going to do here, this will, made a semicolon. There we go. This is going to initialize the button attributes. And so first we'll create the self.screen, and that's going to equal our AI game.screen, and we'll create the self.screen.rectangle, which will equal the self. Sorry, let's do screen get rectangle. All right. So we'll figure out how big the rectangle screen would be from the AI game. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and set the dimensions for the button. So we'll do self.width, and we'll do self.height. db 200 by 50, and we'll do self.button color. And we'll set that to 0, 255, 0. So a nice green color to match with our aliens. Then we could do the text color, and we'll set that to be a white color. All right, and then our font. So self.font will equal a pygame dot font dot sysfont, and we'll set this as none, which just means it'll use the default font. If you want to find some different fonts to change your button look, feel free to look through the Pygame stuff to see what fonts are available within Pygame. And now we're going to build the button's rectangle object and center it. So to do that, we'll do self.rectangle, and that's going to be equal to the pygame.rectangle. So we're creating a rectangle at 0, 0, and we'll use self.width. And we'll use self.height. All right, so that our rectangle is going to be built based off of Pygame's rectangle building, and then we need to position it. So we're going to do self.rectangle.center, and we're going to set that equal to self.screen underscore rectangle.center. So the center of the button will be the center of the screen, and that way we know that it is going to be well positioned. We're just going to put it right in the center. And the last thing here is we need to use the message. So the button message needs to be prepared. So self.underscore prep underscore message. And we're going to send MSG there. Okay. So we need to prep the message in order to turn it from a text string, which it currently is in the message form, into an image. And that's what Pygame will do for us. It's going to turn the text into an image. That image can be rendered onto the rectangle, and then that can be displayed to the screen. So we need to define this self.prep message helper method. And we're going to do that down here. We're going to define our prep message, and we're going to send it a self and an MSG, and then from there, what is this going to do? It is going to turn MSG into a rendered image and center. Go, and let's close this doc string. Okay, so we have our button created. We just need to turn the message into a picture, an image, so that it can show up on the button easily. Self.msg underscore image is going to equal a self.font.render MSG true, and this just is a anti-alias, and that basically just makes the text a little smoother, makes it look a little nicer, on the screen. So we'll set that to true, and we'll do self.text underscore color. And we also need to know the self dot, just make this, get rid of that, so we have full screen. Okay, so self.render, MSG, true, self.text color, self.button. We also need to know the button color. Okay, so, and the reason we're giving it the button color is because when we create this text, we want it to match the background of the text to match the background of the button, so it seems to blend in really well. You could change this, or you could try to make it transparent, but this, by setting the background color of the text of the button image to be the same as the button, then we know that it's going to match pretty well. So once we have this image being created by the render function, we can come down here and we can say self.msg image underscore rectangle is going to equal self.msg image dot get rectangle. And now that we have that, we can establish that the self.msg image rectangle dot center is the same as the self.rectangle dot center. So that way our image, we create a rectangle for the, we create an image, we create a rectangle for the image, and then we make sure that the center of that image rectangle is the same as our button rectangle center. And that way everything is lined up very nicely, very neatly on the screen. However, this doesn't draw anything to the screen. We still need to define a draw button, so that when we're ready, the button will be drawn to the screen. So we don't want it there all the time. We only want it there when we need it. So we'll create a method called draw blank button, and then draw the message. And so we do that with self.screen.fill. And that message will send it self.button color and self.rectangle. So that creates a filled in rectangle. And then to get the image onto that, we use self.screen .blit, and then self.msg image and self.msg image rectangle. And there we go. Now we can draw our button onto the screen. Let's go ahead and save that. So how are we going to draw the button on the screen? That's the last part we need to do before having everything set up for ourselves. So let's go back over here to our alien invasion, and we're going to come to our import stuff, because we need to now, from a button, import button. And now we have imported the button, we'll be able to create buttons and draw buttons into our game. So we're going to come in here after we make the fleet. We're going to come in here and we are going to make the play button. And we're just going to do that with self.play button is going to equal a button, providing it as self, and that was the AI game that's required. And now the message we're going to send it is play. You can of course make that say pretty much whatever you want. That's just what's going to be displayed onto the screen. So now that we have created a button, we still have not put that button on. So we're going to do that when we update our screen. Let's come down here to updating our screen. Here we go. Here's our update screens. So before we display the most recent screen, we're going to come down here and we're going to say make the play button, or let's draw the play button. But only draw it if the game is inactive. We don't want it to always be drawn. Let's give ourselves a little more space here. So we're going to set that up with an if. So if not self.stats game active, right? Because it's false. And if it's false, I want it to draw the button. So I say if it's not true, then we're going to do self.play button.draw button. And there we go. Now, when we save this and we run it, all right, one second. Okay, so it looks like we're having a little bit of trouble in our button. It's saying that our screen rectangle line 8. Oh yeah. So see, we're trying to use screen underscore rectangle, but I put a dot here. So now it wasn't matching up here. So let's try saving that, coming back to Alien Invasion. So again, the mistake, you probably have the same if you're copying me, is this should be on the button, PY, this should be screen rectangle. Screen underscore rectangle, not dot rectangle. And so that wasn't being created properly. So now we can go back to Alien Invasion, we can run it again, and there's our screen. Okay, so we can see our play button showing up, but it's not active. We haven't coded it to do anything. So our game is inactive, our play button's here, but pressing play does nothing. That's what we're going to be looking at the next video, is making our play button interactive. See you then.